Hello, my name is Jessica. This is my podcast, and I just filmed for 30 minutes without turning the microphone on. Hello, my name is Jessica, and this is my podcast. I like to talk about knitting, and honestly, mostly knitting. There are other podcasts where you can hear about books and crochet and sewing, but I just do the one thing. I'm also a singing teacher and do lots of other things and talk about that occasionally, but mostly this is about knitting. So I'm just going to double check that my microphone light is on because I'm trying out a new piece of tech and I just filmed for quite a while without it on. So this is a bit of a redo. In the first version, I kept brushing it because I'm not used to wearing it. So we're going to see how it goes. I'm trying to get like a more focused sound where it's like just my voice instead of all of the like ambient noise because there's quite a lot of that in my area at the moment. So we'll see how it goes. And maybe I'll keep using it, maybe I won't. But yeah, this is just like a little mini podcast today. I've got some other things in the works. I'm planning to do the West Knits MCAL again this year. I've already got my yarn. It's not arrived yet, but I have ordered it. And I'm very excited about that. I've also just been picking up some other knits after kind of a summer of not knitting that much, to be honest. But I'm reacquainting myself with some projects. I've got a sweater that's like almost finished, and a few other things that are in the works. I'm not going to be talking about those today, but I will hopefully be talking about those soon. But for now, I just wanted to talk about some knits that I made in the past, but that still get quite a lot of wear. I've been washing all of my woolens over the past few days. Not my sweaters. They honestly don't get much of a wash or like that much of anything because I kind of tend to cycle through them and they don't really need it. And if they do, I wash them like one at a time. Whereas things like my accessories all kind of live in one big basket. And over the summer, they've not had the best time. They were accidentally got a little bit damp at one point. So all the wool got a little bit stinky, and also I had put some moth prevention in, but clearly not quite enough because there was also a tiny little section where some moths happened. There's only really some very like tiny holes in things that will be quite easy to fix, but still not ideal. So they've not got the love that they deserve. So I wanted to give them a wash and a dry and just breathe some new, really triple checking that this is actually connecting and recording sound, and just freshen them up for the winter. And while I was doing it, I was thinking about how there are kind of things that I reach for over and over again that I tend to just use the same pair of gloves, the same shawl, the same hat, pretty much all the time, and I kind of have to remind myself to use all of the other ones. And I don't have loads. The thing that I have the most of is shawls because I really like knitting them. But when it comes to wearing them, I just really like the ones that are quite plain. And I just tend to wear those ones over and over again, which is something that I'm okay with. Like, not all knitting is because I will wear that thing, although I'd like most of my knitting to be something that is worn and useful. But sometimes I'm just making things because I enjoy making them. And they get a little bit of wear, but not that much. But yeah, the thing I have the most of is shawls, then probably hats. Maybe I have as many hats as shawls, but they're smaller, so I don't think about them as much. But again, I'm also just not really a big hat person. I think because of the curly hair situation, I don't really wear hats unless it's like really, really windy or raining. yeah, if anyone has any recommendations for hats that suit curly hair, that don't like squish it too, I don't really know. I just don't feel like myself when I wear a hat because it makes my hair go away, and I feel like my hair is a big part of my like visual identity or like visual self-identity. Today we're having a bit of a moment. I've got a little like plait situation in. I don't know if you can see. Everything is very bright except my hair. Um, anyway, beside the point. Yes, I'm also wondering if one of those like hoods might be better. If you have any thoughts on this, let me know down below. And mittens. I only really have like 4 pairs of. I've got like a few pairs of fingerless mittens, and then just 2 pairs of other mittens, which I'm going to talk about now. So, yeah, this is just some accessories that I've made that have stood the test of time. They've stood the test of time. I wear them. I like them. And they're patterns I would recommend. They're also all, I think, patterns that are very enjoyable to knit and that are like well written and that were like a pleasure to make as well as a pleasure to wear. So, without further ado, let me show you some knitted objects. Because I've washed them, some of these are still a little bit damp. For example, this hat, which when it's dry, looks like it is all one colour. However, it was knit with 2 strands of yarn held together, and one colour, one strand is the same yarn the whole way, and one colour is not. When it's dry, it looks relatively cohesive and you can't really tell, but because it is still a bit damp, you can see the kind of difference in the 2 greens that are held with the purple. But this is the Chesley toque. It is by someone who I can't remember, but I will put it down below. And yeah, this is the hat that I wear the most. I think it's just like a nice size for me. I cannot remember which size that I made. I think there are different sizes, but I can't remember. It's got, yeah, I couldn't tell you. I don't know, but I like it very much. It's got just the right amount of brim. I really like the colours. I think, yeah, a big part of it is the colour, and also just the pattern is really nice. It was such a fun and easy and like simple pattern to make, but just like very satisfying. There you go. Very satisfying, like lacy dye. I actually can't remember what technique is used to make it, but it looks like just simple decreases and yarn overs, and I really like it. Yeah, I have a few other hats, like a little ribbed guy that I wear sometimes, that I made, but this is the one that I reach for the most often. And if I was more of a hat wearer, I would definitely make more of this same pattern because I love knitting the same pattern over and over again. And this one was very fun to make and very fun to wear, but because I don't really wear hats, I think I probably would only make it again if I was making it for a friend, or if I proved to myself that I would wear hats more often. So, Chesley toque, would recommend, does need to dry properly. I've definitely talked about this in other videos. I think I made it maybe in 2021 when I think I was podcasting. So if I talk about it in the pod, I'll try and like link the previous podcast episode down below. I'm pretty sure I did. I feel like it was podcast era, but we'll find out. Okay, let's start ahead and go the way down. The next thing I feel like is an appropriate transition because it's the same purple yarn that was in the hat. So this is a BC Garn yarn that I love a lot. Link it down below. And this was a test knit that I did for Gudrun Johnston. It's called the Valtigarth shawl, I think, and I will not be able to get it all in frame, but that is roughly what it looks like. It's an excellent size. Sorry if that's brushing the microphone, which is still on. Hooray! It's an excellent size. I just love the yarn and the way that it feels. This would probably be my desert island yarn. Like if I could only ever knit with one yarn for the rest of my life, it would be this. It's a sports weight, which is like my favorite weight and favorite like size of needles to be using, somewhere around that like 3.75-4 millimeter mark. Perfection. Pattern was really fun. It was like simple enough that I could do it while watching TV, but complicated enough that it kept me interested. And because the pattern repeats is quite small, like it's only like 8 rows or something. Well, I guess if you count this as a whole, maybe like 16 rows or something. You're like, oh, I just will do the next one and the next one and the next one, and it all goes quite quickly. And then you add on this border, which is also very satisfying to do. And maybe like the most complicated part is this at the bottom, where you have to do some like increases to kind of make the curve happen. As you can see, it's got affected by the moths, so it will need a little bit of care. But this is the shawl that I kind of reach for the most often. I wear it with the triangle point in the back, and then I wrap it around, and then I tie it at the back, like so. And it's just great. It keeps the back of my neck really warm, and it's really cozy. But I don't get overheated. I think the other shawl that I use pretty regularly is my half and half wrap, which again I definitely talked about on the podcast at some point. But that is definitely a lot warmer than this. Like I kind of will start out wearing it when I like first leave the house, and then once I start walking anywhere, I have to take it off because I just get too hot. Like it just doesn't get cold enough here to really use something like that for a full day. So I'll use it in the house sometimes, because if I'm like still and it's not that warm in the flat, then it's quite good for that. But like my most worn consistently outside is definitely this one, because it's just the right weight. Like it's warm enough, but it's not, I don't get too overheated in it. I just like it a lot. However, if I am concerned about getting overheated, or if it is like a transitional moment, oh sorry, I forgot to say, did I say when I made that? I think that was also a 2021 number, so this will be my 3rd winter with it. Yeah, that's correct. If it's too warm for a proper shawl, this is what I would reach for. This is the Sophie scarf, I think, rather than the Sophie. I think I call it the Sophie shawl, but I'm pretty sure it's actually called the Sophie scarf. And I think it's a petite knit pattern. I cannot remember. I will link it down below. But yeah, this is just perfect for like autumn, spring time. Again, I take the point in the back, but I only wrap it around the once and then just tie it like this. And it's just enough to add like a little bit of extra warmth. Sorry, I hit the microphone again. What was I going to say about it? You would think that something this small wouldn't really make a difference, but it actually genuinely does. Like, and it's so small, I can just like stick it in my tote bag, and then if it does just get that like little bit chillier, it just makes all the difference. I think also like keeping your core warm, I don't know, science, it helps. So yeah, and again, this was so fun to make. Like, it's just garter stitch with little increases and an I-cord, and this is definitely something that I would make in another colour, just to like have a different option. And also, I think this was like, this is 50 grams of yarn. I think this might have been 2 25-gram balls of yarn that I like pulled out from another project. But to be honest, like this colour just goes so well with my coat. I don't really know why I would make another colour unless I saw like a 50-gram ball of yarn, skein of yarn, and I was like, I need to make something with that, and couldn't think what to make, and just wanted a little pop of colour or whatever. This could be a good contender. It's just so cute. So that would be my like transitional weather shawl option, shawl scarf situation. Yeah, the only other thing that I wanted to talk about was some mittens. And again, do not have loads of different mittens because I have these and they work and I use them all the time. And these are called the Arched Gusset Mittens, and they're, I think, a free pattern by Pearl Soho. And I made them in this rowan tweed yarn, which I think is discontinued now, but I had loads of different colours of it for a while because I got it as a present. And yeah, they're just a very simple pattern to make. They've got this kind of like nice little curved detail here. I just think it looks very cool. And they're incredibly warm. I think a lot of that is down to the like yarn choice. The only thing I would say about the fit of these is that for me personally, it's quite tight over here. Now, I do not know that much about knitting construction. If this was like a sock or something, I think I'd probably be able to figure out where I needed to add stitches or add length or whatever to make that not be the case. But because I don't know much about knitting construction, because I've not made many of them, I don't really know why that's happening. So if any of you know what I would change about the pattern or about my interpretation of the pattern in order to make that not the case, it's not, I don't think it's that I don't have enough, like, because this bit is long enough, or like there's extra here, so it's not that this is too short, I don't think. But yeah, it can just be a little bit tight kind of around here sometimes, but the rest of it's really good, and they dry quite quickly, which is really good because it's quite rainy in Edinburgh, and I just like them. I originally made them as mitten liners for these mittens, which are still wet from being washed 2 days ago. Part of the reason why they've been replaced, that was the mothball packet, herb packet, anti-moth thing that got a little bit wet and then dyed the tip of this mitten. So that's what happened. These are the Shine Mittens by the designer previously known as Sophia Camborne, now uses a different name. Can't remember what it is. We'll put it down below. I think they're called the Shine Mittens, and they're lovely, but I made them, I think, in 2018, possibly 2017, and I didn't know that much about like choosing. I'd got to the point where I knew to choose the right like weight of yarn for a project. For ages, I just thought that you could increase the size of needle and that would be fine, or like decrease the size of needle and then use just whatever you wanted and that would be fine. But I got to the point where I knew to pick the right like weight of yarn, but I didn't think about the kind of content, like the fibre content, and how that might affect its usage. So I actually can't remember what the fibre content of this is, but it, I think, is a baby yarn, and it feels quite cottony, like it's very heavy, and really takes on water and dries very slowly. So not ideal for mittens, and also isn't that warm, like it kind of just lets through. It's so wet. This is making my hand extremely wet. Very, very damp times, but a beautiful pattern. And if I'd made it in like sheepier yarn, would be warm enough, but it was not warm enough. So I thought that I would make mitten liners, which is what these were. And they do fit inside really nicely, but actually these on their own are warm enough. And I like, this is more my style now, just like a plain blue guy, than this, which is beautiful, but not really my style at the moment. So I've kept them because they're so gorgeous, and whenever I do wear them, I get lots of compliments on them. And also, I think they're one of the like first Fair things that I made where like my Fair is very consistent, and one of the like first kind of more complicated patterns that I followed. Like it's got this like Latvian braid, so it has a lot of like sentimental value, but I don't wear them very often. Whereas this guy, all the time. Yeah, that I just thought was a little fun thing to do because I'm always curious about what people actually end up wearing after they make things. Like I love seeing things that people have just made, but I really enjoy seeing, especially if I've been watching someone's podcast for a while and I'm like, oh, I remember when you made that 2 years ago and look, you're still wearing it. So yeah, I would encourage, if anyone's watching who is also a podcaster, I would love to see what your like most worn accessories are, especially like things that you made like 2 years ago, 3 years ago. I think I forgot to say, but I made these in 2020, so this will be my 4th winter with them, and still love them, still my go-to mittens. So yeah, without making this like a tag video, if you're a podcaster, consider yourself tagged. Please let me know what your favorite winter items are, especially as we're like coming back into autumn, winter 2023. What are you excited to start wearing again? I am not going to do this with garments because I'm a bit of a fickle garment wearer. But with accessories, I have some consistent loves, and I thought I'd share them with you. So that's what I've done. I'm gonna go now and hope that this is actually recorded with sound. And then I've got a party to go to this evening, so woo, let's crack on. I will see you all later and have a good day. Goodbye.